Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Just waiting for some people to join. Giving it a little bit of time. Hmm. I know we said we are going to start at 6 p.m., but unfortunately, few things came up. Mommy duties came up, and I didn't have. I you just I had to jump right into what I but I'd given my word, so I had to make sure that I'm here today. And I'm really looking forward to sharing this time with everyone. We are starting at 8:25, and then that would take us into the whole training, the whole webinar, and that we should be done at 9:25. I'm hoping. Hey, yep. So unfortunately, I cannot share my screen on Instagram, but you'll get to see my pretty face and you know as I'm talking. And this is shout out to please go join our YouTube live. Just follow the link in the bio, and if you're in our WhatsApp chats, you'll be able to just click on the link in the WhatsApp chats. Uh so I'm just going to take 3 minutes to introduce myself. My name is Oreoluwa Afe. I live in Canada and I have worked in multiple sectors, both specializing in business intelligence, in public health, worked in public health, also worked um, in finance industry when I got to Canada, um, and as in technology, worked in finance industry in technology. One thing that inspired me to start this is the my drive to to support people. I've really worked in a lot of situations where I was the first to start a lot of things, and it made sure that I was intentional about seeking out who my mentors are. And because a lot of times when you don't have people that have gone ahead of you, you tend to stumble through your tasks because there's no one to refer to, and there's really nobody to to guide you. So I've been very intentional because I understand the need for mentorship, and um I've been very fortunate to work with quite very wonderful people. I have also, since I got to Canada, I've been a business analyst for some time now, and I'd like to say I am target. I'm hoping that I can. This platform will give me the opportunity to work with business analysts, um, immigrants, targeting business analysis, project management. You've been there for some time, you're looking for something to switch into or to specialize in. Especially business analysis is something, it's a bit tricky at this point in the way that the market is changing to say that you're just a business analyst. You have to have an area of specialization. And I think that change management is something that is a big deal, and it's going to be a bigger deal because as a business analyst, as a project manager, if you're working in technology at all in this time, you're most likely going to be working. You're most likely going to be in let me just bring my camera here so I'm looking at everybody at the same time. So you're most likely going to be working in situations where you're going to be affecting change a lot. And so change management is something that we want to be very focused on, and we want to be equipped, to do and to carry out. There's a lot of steps and a lot of processes in transitioning people or an organization from one process to the other that if you're not equipped with the knowledge and the skills that come with being able to manage change, you will fail woefully in successfully implement or transiting technology. So we'll get right into this training. This training is this. We have our slides here on YouTube. Um, this training is targeted at leaders, it's targeted at business analysts, it's targeted at people who are looking to make a switch in their career or specialize and have practiced for a while in change money in any area of technology. Is also targeted at business leadership. Um, so we I'm going to be um so this is a 3-day training, and it's going to require us to follow, per day if we want to really understand and enjoy the benefit of it. We're going to be here for just an hour, and yes, really excited. Today we're going to be looking at how it applies. It could apply to me, and the key components and examples that I'm going to be sharing with you. And I'm hoping that you can drop your comments in YouTube or on Facebook Live whenever you do watch this. Tell me how this is useful for you and how it's applicable in your own peculiar situation. Um, so So we're going to be looking at what change management means. Just give me 1 second. I'm just um, I'm just trying to fix. Yes, this is the page I'm looking for. Hey, I went off. Just fix that right back. And so while we're sharing our screen, um, I'd like to know what kind of change management challenges you experience as a change manager. What kind of experiences have you had, while you're managing your change, while you have had to implement any form of change in your organization? Mm, okay, I think, yep, technology. Okay, so the first thing is I would like to define what a change manager is. What change management is, and we said here that change management is a structured approach to transitioning individuals, teams, and organizations from their current state to future stage. So even though I'm more familiar with technology and public health to an extent, I've worked in those sectors, public health, supply chain, logistics. I would say that this definition definitely surely covers all aspects of change management. Say during COVID, a lot of organizations had to come up with these new policies because nobody had anticipated that COVID was going to happen or that people would have to work from home. They had to develop new policies for them to for employees and for relating with their employees, for serving the employees. And I dare say a lot of people had to understand what it meant at that point to really carry along the employees because a lot of cultural shifts had to happen. Um, so that's one key thing about change management. Because people are not rational, because human beings, we are not rational beings, and therefore unpredictable. You have to create a structure around how you manage this change and how you transition these things around them. But it has to have started before that change took effect. So if you do that, then you can count on up to 98% adoption, smooth adoption and delivery of intended outcomes. What are the key components of training to of this change management effectively our training? We're looking at engaging how you engage employees, how you address resistance, and how you build commitment to new ways of working because these changes will impact the people. What kind of tools are you going to be looking at? I know that our tech people are going to be expecting me to say um, all the tech things, but I'm going to specifically say we're going to be looking at leveraging the tools we're going to be looking at are how you leverage strategies, how you the kind how you ensure that you train, how detailed your training is, how unambiguous your training is, how useful and easy it is for people to implement what they've learned from your training on the go. Your ability to communicate, plan your communication and measurements to sustain change. You want to have a dashboard, you want to have a metric system for and KPIs for measuring how impactful your change is. Now we will talk about importance of change in organizations. Everybody knows that it's important to move from one spot to the other. Everybody knows that from to move from one spot to the other, you need to be able to implement sustainable changes, sometimes very uncomfortable, a lot of times very uncomfortable, but you want to be able to implement that change smoothly. Um, Without change, organizations risk stagnation and irrelevance in dynamic markets. And you'd agree with me that we have a very dynamic global system, especially with the use of AI, with the use of digitization in most organizations, no matter how small you are, you run the risk of quickly, losing track of your documentation, your processes, your system, and even being hijacked, your ideas being hijacked have if you do not implement change smoothly and your people that work with you externally and internally are able to leverage this change that you have said and effectively implement it. If people are able to understand why this change is and adopt it smoothly, effectively, and still continue business as usual, then you have scored a good one. Why is change important? Change is important because it helps you, like I already said, to adapt to market shifts. These days, we know that change is coming really fast. Things are changing very quickly. Before someone in Africa is fully adapted to a system or a technology, somewhere else in Asia, children are already learning and mastering new tools, new techniques of doing the exact same thing that people have been doing. And they're even building machines to do those same things. So you cannot but be in a position to that is able to effectively, quickly implement change without becoming irrelevant. You have to be able to implement change very quickly. Everybody can anybody can create an online store. You don't need to code right now. You don't need to learn how to code. People are able to create an online store without writing any dot of code and be doing the same thing that Amazon is doing. They can do that with their own products and over time even get other people to use their platform. These things are you as a business, you have to be able to adapt to change and adapt to market shifts. Um, Also, you want to be able to change is important because it helps you to drive innovation. When you're adapting to the market, as you're adapting and you're shifting the way that you think, it will force you to see things in a different light. One of my videos, if you go back to my last video, it talks about how when you have resistance, it allows you, when you're working and engaging with your stakeholders, you're able to see things from their perspective, and rather than think about when you identify the challenge and name it with your stakeholders, rather than think about, oh, I have to go change this, I have to document this, I have to do, you think about, oh, I get to do this, I get to do that. You get more excited and you know because you recognize that you can own a new process. So, and even for business owners, you want to be able to inspire your people to constantly think outside the box, to be, you want your organization to be the kind that opens, that opens up people's minds to think, and inspires people to want to do things different. You don't have to incentivize it by necessarily by material things, but just that knowledge, that fulfillment that someone started something during a process of change and the organization currently now uses it. I know an organization that far back years ago, that one of their staff, was responsible for creating, innovating a new process of doing things that we all know today. I don't remember exactly what tool that was, but he then, he was given the opportunity to have his own lab, experiment with those things, and the organization had no problem, no qualms with him reaching out to their markets to explain this new change. They drove him, they pushed him, and today we're all using that same tool. So we want to be in a position that we want our organization, our environment to be a place where people feel comfortable to innovate, without feeling like they need to, people can be tired, people can be obsessed with the organization, and then that stifles any need for innovation. But when change is important to an organization, then they will encourage innovation. Why is change important? Thirdly, it improves efficiency. Change is something that change is often, it often streamlines processes. It helps you every time that you're doing an improvement. You are giving yourself an opportunity to catch a gap, to catch a problem, to fix a problem. Even before the advent of AI and how proliferated it's become now, it was already normal that when you deep dive, when you get deep into the weeds of a change process, you become you see things slack in your processes that could have easily been done away with and has been going on in that organization for a very long time. So that way you're able to change that and catch it. And that way you reduce costs, you boost productivity. Because as much as people tend to be afraid of change sometimes, when they see that there's something that makes them, it reduces the time they spend on things, or that they don't need to do the same thing the same way that they've been doing it for a long time. Some people tend to be, energized and inspired to to do more, and so it improves productivity. Um, Another reason why change is important is that it enhances employee engagement. Um, when you introduce change in your organization or as a professional in your processes, in your systems, with before it has become a problem, before that solution has become a problem, you are able to build trust and, you know create an environment of transparency and collaboration, and improve workplace morale. Before it became so, the fact that people trust you will make them open to changes that you suggest. For example, if in an organization, I've seen organizations where the changes become the issue. The change becomes so important that the organization can move forward without it. And at that point, when the staff and employees and people experience those things once or twice, they're tired and they don't want to really be in an environment where is so impertinent that there's no process, there's no time for training or time for real, testing of these processes or these applications or these tools before they have to start using it in their day to day, where it could have impact their own deliverable as employees. So you want to be proactive because it helps people know that you're looking out, you're actually on top of your game. And if you're on top of your game, they will be on top of their game. But if you're not on top of your game, I mean, you kind of expect your staff to be on top of their game, or expect the people that you deal with, your vendors or other people, to be on top of their game. If you're a change manager working in a change process, your engagement, your level of engagement with people will help them, and your proactiveness in, quickly closing a gap through changes, the necessary changes, will help them trust you. So when you suggest a solution another time, it's easy for them to accept it because they know that you're on top of your game. The last but not the least, we have sustainability and growth. Um, Change is also important because it helps organizations stay aligned with long-term goals, and it then reduces the hindrances or the impediments they have to entering new markets. When, as an organization, you are adaptive to change, you stay aligned with your stakeholders, or as an employee with, in a change management position, or you're an executive in a change leadership position. As an executive, you always have to do change. So in this position, if you're constantly open to change and adoption and adaptation, you'll be able to, easily mitigate issues could come up as a result of already existing dynamics in a new market, and you will also be able to to meet your long-term goals, so that you're not you're not confused. You don't have to be at a point where things get out of hand before you then have to fix, does this align with your long-term goals? If you're constantly in an adaptive, environment, or organization, or platform, or person, you will be able to stay aligned with your long-term goals. There will be no opportunity. There will be no need for people to. There will be no need to be rush into things that do not fit with your objectives as an organization or in a project. Now let's move on to the next slide. We're going to start talking about, like I promised, when we started, I said we're going to look at three frameworks of change. We're going to look at the key components of these frameworks, and then we're going to look at how it applies to an organization. Then we will look at an action plan for implementation. So I'm going to be giving you these examples because I like an interactive class, and because I like to see people, I like to, I work better when I feel like I'm working, if you know what I mean. Um, so we're going to be looking at the ADKAR model first. The ADKAR model is basically, is the key components of the ADKAR model are, you know, awareness. You want to create awareness, um, with everyone that the change is going to impact. You do not want to have anybody. It means stakeholder analysis. It means understanding the end to end of that change. What the components of what the components of that change will entail, and who is going to impact, who is going to be needed to maintain, in terms of maintainability, sustainability, support, technical support, operational support. So let's say you're looking at automating a process. The people that are responsible for automating cannot be the same people operationalizing this. You have to have a document that states why. Now, what this does for you is that it helps you to be able to identify um all the milestones that will be required in this process. And so when you have these milestones, you'd when you identify these milestones, you'd be able to, you know, figure out who is required, who are the people required within the organization, outside the organization. Start making those relationships, start engaging them now. Those people, in engaging them, the first thing rule of engagement is helping them understand why change is needed. You're not sugarcoating anything. You're not changing the wheel. You're telling them why, first of all. Then we talk about desire as part of one of the key components of ADKAR model. Um, you want to create motivation for change. How does it affect them? You told them why, but now you want to tell them, you want to create a desire for it in for this change. You want to create a motivation for this change. You want to help them understand. You want to tell them from their own perspective, why is this good for you? When you're talking to the users as the stakeholder, you're addressing the users. You're going to be talking to them from a perspective of, this is beneficial because, say, it helps you maintain security. It helps you, it's easier for you to sign into your laptop, for instance. If you're talking to the technology leaders, you tell them it reduces the amount of time that your employees have to spend in supporting people or in addressing security related issues, because this has already cut away that gap. Now, knowledge as a third key component of the ADKA model is, please provide skills in terms of training. Like I said in the last slide, you want to be able to ensure that it, important things like training is in depth and is targeted at your audience. You want to do training that you want to analyze and check your employees, the people in a team that's responsible for supporting or any kind of operationalization that will come with the change, and you want to help them to gain the skills necessary. If it's a very technical thing, such as people that have been managing on-prem tools or applications, managing tools or applications in on-prem environments, and now you're migrating to cloud environment, you want to ensure that they have the skills for each of the applications that have been migrated, each of the tools that have been migrated to the cloud. You want to make sure they have the skills to implement this and to successfully effect that change and sustain it and operationalize it in the long run, so that your transition is smooth and successful. Next is ability. How do you effect the change? So you've told them why the change is needed, you've created motivation for the change, you've trained them, you've provided the necessary skills you think they will need. Now, enabling it means stay open, stay easy to communicate with. You don't want to be in a position, you don't want to be in a position where you have to you put them through the process of this training, and then you move off. You are no longer available to communicate with, because they want to know, okay, so if there's need for escalation, who do we escalate to? Some of that conversation might not have been had. You want to be in a position to have that conversation and help them run through it, manage it. Give them at least 3 to 6 months of that open communication with you, the change team, and access to the necessary technology leads to support or troubleshoot anything outside of their main support framework. Lastly, for this framework is reinforcements. It ties back to enabling the change. You want to make sure that this change is sustainable, because your ability to keep your people, to keep the operation team, to keep the core technical team that are responsible for the day-to-day management of this change or this new tool or this new technology or this new system or new set of processes, you want to be sure that it's sustainable. How? The documents you have created, that says all that is necessary, like the playbooks, the process documents, the visio diagrams, all the things that you have created, make it accessible to them and give them editable rights so that they don't need you. You don't want to be the one in charge of editing things. They don't need to want to reach out to you. You also create a system where you say things like, okay, so if you need to change something, this is the process that it takes. These are the people that need to approve. It means that at this point, you have to be as detailed as possible. You can make yourself available to guide them in how to document or what to add or what's not necessary or when a new document needs to be created, but you have to give them that leverage that they need to be the ones to sustain this change. So you've done your part, you've given them told them why. Now you've created the motivation, telling them how it applies to them. You've trained them, you've equipped them in capacity, in terms of capacity. You've enabled the change, you've made yourself available, you've made yourself accessible for 3 to 6 months to test this with different kinds of users and different systems. But now it's time to make sure the change is sustainable, because there will be tests, non-happy path tests, that you would have to take your change through, take your tool or application or technology through, that your organization might not have experienced before, and there are no existing processes for that. No matter how much you planned or envisaged, there's always a non-happy path that you did not anticipate as a project. So you want to make sure that these people are able to troubleshoot these things without you. How does it apply to my organization? So I'm going to be using a lot of fictional examples. Um, these examples are not taken from any particular organization. They are completely fictional and written by me. An example is of this training is when an organization needs training on a new system. We've talked about this. Um, so let's say that we applied all the key components to say, imagine that an organization is they need to be trained on a new system. So you understand that when an organization has people, a lead, a CI, a technology lead or director needs to release his people to an hour or two or more of training, you would want the buy-in of that director. Now, on another level, after the director, you need the buy-in of the users. These people that you're training that work under the director, the analysts and the leads, the escalation leads, the troubleshooting leads that you're going to be training. You want to make sure that you have their buy-in. You need to apply these key components to them as well. They are the ones you really, really cannot do without, because they are the ones that will implement this change and ensure that it's sustainable. Because if they do not see the need for it, all they have to do is tell their director that it doesn't fit and it does not align with the department goals and what the structure of the organization dictates that the department is responsible for. So you want to apply these key components even much more intentionally towards the staff working under the director, the owners, the people who are really going to engage with this tool and use it. Now, in terms of action plan for implementation, you want to schedule training sessions and create post training feedback mechanism. This has a lot to do with enabling the change and sustaining the change. You want to be able to work with the staff. So the outcome model believes that you have to look at things from a user's perspective or stakeholder perspective, not from an organizational perspective. So it's looking at employees, people that you could say that they don't make the rules for themselves. Because a lot of times organizations will dump changes and new innovations on people, not minding that their fears are justified about, say, for AI, for instance. We know that every time technology has come out through history, people would be concerned about the safety, job security. Organizations do not typically do that. So the outcome model is very pro employee, pro user. So you would observe that most of our examples and the things we're looking at here is mostly about looking at it from a humane point of view, from a not from a up top down, but from a bottoms up point of view. Um, you want to engagement and feedback is so important. In one of my videos I talked about how you want to ensure that when you give them, you want to give enough time between implementation and testing by the main users, and training and feedback. So once you've trained them, you've done the demo, and you're going ahead to start training them to engage them. We want to create a loop, something that's specifically targeted at engaging them and carrying on conversations with them. Create a template in that loop, in that platform, and teach them, you know, how to use it. Educate them, be present. You can set an alarm for yourself that, okay, I'm going to be doing this checking this loop every 5 hours or 2 hours, depending on how impactful the change is, or how across board the change is, depending on the kind of change. So you want to check it as back to back as possible, so that you're able to check their comments, address their concerns, and if it requires a technology change, you want to be able to go back to your developers or technology leads and bring this complaint to them and tweak it, and maybe even most preferably find a way to advise them of how you are working with the development team to effect this change, that to update or upgrade something based on their complaints. And then when you reflect it, you want to tell them to go try it back and see that, confirm that it works for them, because a lot of people have different environments that they go into, that you've tested everything and then something else looks, comes and looks like it's very shocking and very surprising. Now we'll move on to the quarters 8-step process. So one of the main the quarters 8-step process is very big on um, very big on quick returns. Is very big on strong messaging. Is very big on actions, quick actions. You know, getting people to do things, getting people to move. Like, just do it. Just get to it. Don't be so so don't think that people are so fragile. Do the change anyway. People would accept it. That's the core of the quarters is separate of the quarters framework, change framework. So let's look at the create urgency. As it speaks, the term is self-explanatory. Um, it says how we need to be able to, push people to understand how quickly this is going to be. If you're going to implement a change, you want to tell them what's at stake if you don't do it. So if we don't do it, it's possible that one of your applications is going to shut down because the vendor that owns the application is moving to a new system. You're creating a new encryption email system, internal or external email encryption system. The vendor has created this thing, or there's an MRA, or there's an audit that we need to quickly prevent, that we're not in compliance with, and the deadline for this is this date. Create that urgency. Build guiding coalition. You want to be able to, let everybody know how they contribute, how they're working together. You want everybody to be able to say, okay, this is what your role is, this is what is expected of you. Everybody knows what they need to do. You've created urgency. Now get people to get working. Then develop a vision, a common goal, something that is common to everybody. This is why we're doing this. Yes, I know that there's an MRE on ground, but this is why we're doing this. We're setting on this path because we want to achieve this for the organization. Now, let's communicate that vision. You, as a change manager, you've developed a vision. Now communicate the vision. You want to inspire people. Is the quarters um 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 f- its framework is very big on you know and getting people to is from a leadership perspective. So it's your role to create a vision that's inspiring for the people. Now communicate this vision to them. Let them see why. Speak to them in a language that will inspire them, will drive them. Now, you've told them why, you've created the urgency, you've communicated the visions behind this to them. Now empower their actions. What does everybody need? Everybody has built a coalition around what they need, what their obligations are, what expectations are from them. Now let them go let them figure out what they need to do. This is what you need. Okay, you need to speak to this person. You need the buy-in of this person. I'm going to get the buy-in for you. So this is more from a top-down perspective. Remember, the ADCA was from the bottoms up perspective. This is now from the top-down perspective. You're getting the organization. You as a leader, your responsibility is to get people what they need, the collaborations they need, the coalitions they need. Help them to give them everything they need. They need capacity training within their team. Get the training done. Give them a timeline for that. Because remember, where this is urgent. This is a very urgent thing. Now generate wins. Give people things to measure themselves against, that this is why we're doing well, this is how we know we're doing well, these are the metrics that we're looking at as a team, as a task force in this project, to measure how successfully we are building this change and transiting this change. Now make sure that your gains are sustainable. When you've generated these wins and you've achieved them, you want to make sure that you sustain these gains. You don't want to make progress and then you've overlooked something, or someone has overlooked in an important, integral stakeholder or process. Like you've got find a project and you discover that you didn't complete your solutions architect documents, and you're now left without that, or you didn't get approval for something. No, you have to make sure that you sustain your gains. Give yourself a good platform to um sustain your gains. Now you want to institutionalization. This is the most beautiful part to me, because as a leader, you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're introducing a new system and a new framework and a new technology. But your role is to make sure that from your top down view, you're able to see what it is, where this new change can plug into the whole organizational structure. You're not trying to create a new department because you introduce a new technology. Who are the people that were responsible for carrying out the role that this new technology is now going to be doing? Train them to facilitate this process, and that them facilitating this new technological change might be short term, but make your plan. That's how you institutionalize change. You don't just you don't go and reinvent the wheel. Reinventing the wheel is a and or starting a process, or starting a change that you didn't measure properly, and then when it gets to a certain point you discover that you didn't have any means of doing carrying out proper reports, or you didn't have a place to host this application within your organization, or you didn't have a place to help you track the people that are moving from one the old legacy system to this new digital system. You want to be able to make sure that your change is institutionalized by leveraging the existing system within your organization. So since now we know that we need to be urgent, we have to create urgency. The main thing you can do is to develop a roadmap. When I start my projects, one of the first things I do is create a roadmap. It helps you clear your thoughts. It helps you communicate at a high level what the people that you're working with, your change team, your implementation team, your technology team, your business team. It helps you help them to have their goals right in front of their face. It helps you clear your mind. It helps you see issues and gaps. Trust me, because you're working at high level. So then you're able to allocate different milestones and track who is responsible for what are the objectives, how do you measure that you've achieved any rate of success, a roadmap for leadership alignment, and a clear vision presentation. That's your role as a leader in change. Your role is to make sure that you create a roadmap, timelines, deliverables, responsible persons, a beautiful whiteboard roadmap, a beautiful um, PowerPoint slide with infographics, something high level, something straight to the point that doesn't make space for jargons or any form of, ambiguousness. Now we move on to our final framework for the evening, for this training for today. And the final framework the is the Lewin's model. When an organization, so the Lewin's model is also kind of employee upwards, um, but it kind of tries to find a point of alignment between both of them. So the ADCA model was bottoms up. Look at it from a user perspective. Try and be humane to the people that are going to use this, the people that they change most impact. From a leadership perspective, that was the Kotter's 8-step principle. We're looking at as a leader, as a leader, as a leader. But in the Lewin's model, one thing we're looking at is how it applies to preparing the employees for a new performance. So it's also it's also a leadership focused framework, but it's trying to get leaders to be more to work together with employees and understand things from where they're coming from. The three main components of the Lewin's model is unfreeze, change, and then refreeze. Very simple and straight to the point. For unfreeze, you want to be an organization that's prepared for change all the time. You want to be an organization that walks the walk and talks the talk. So your organizational culture is on point because people don't need to be afraid to put up objections. People feel comfortable enough to raise their voice when they're not comfortable with something. And so, because of that, a lot of things that go on in the organization are already people centric. So that when you bring change, because you inspire innovation, you encourage innovation in the organization, in the people, they're already used to being able to ask questions. And so, when something needs to change, it happens very quickly because there's already that culture existing there. Now, if then in the change process on freezes, make all the right preparations. Those preparations are not something you're going to do in a day. That's what I'm talking about, organizational culture. It has to be something that you have been doing as a step-by-step process. You have been moving faithfully towards it. That's how you roll as an organization. Then change, do your change, implement your change. So it means that you're an organization that is tuned towards change. You are tuned to change. You're innovative. You're upwardly mobile. You're thinking about change. You're encouraging change. You're inspiring. You have people that are hungry. You have an environment that gets people thinking outside of the box. You encourage it. Now change. So when you've grown that organization, which, like I said, takes more than a single day or a month or a year to build, it means you're constantly, that's your culture. That's your everyday culture. Now change. Go on and implement your change. Meaning that such an organization, there's constant change. There's constant change because you're inspiring innovation, because you're encouraging people to change, there's constant change. People are allowed to change. People are allowed to move from one type of role to the other. People are allowed to try new things. Nobody's stifled because their suggestions or opinions will change things in the organization so much, and the organization is threatened by change, or when their staff seems to be thinking out of the box. You want to be able to help people be open to change all the time. So when that change is constantly happening in such an organization, implement your change because you already have the framework and existing structure for reporting a new idea, testing the new idea, and then maybe creating a POC team to implement. Like you have maybe like a group of 50 people in the organization, or depending on the number of your organization, people that can people that people that can join, people that can do things. You now are able to quickly implement change. Now, for every change, you want to be able to reinforce the new practices, because, and that would be easy in an organization where people have change, are used to change. They're used to being able to introduce change. They know that the wheels turn very quickly to implement their change. They're not going to tell them, oh, can you wait the next board meeting in the next 8 months so we can go discuss with the almighties before we think about implementing your change. No, it works pretty fast. So because that organization is used to that, they're quick to implement new practices. You as a leader or a team lead or a change leader, your role is to reinforce the new practices. Do not create space for reverting to old systems or old processes. You want to start tracking people's performance by according to that new change, the ability to use that technology. It's at the discretion of each manager how strict they want to be with that. But you cannot track people you cannot measure performance or measure management, any form of you cannot create any form of metrics around performance based on the legacy system. You have to force yourself, you have to be determined to work based on that new process or tool or technology. How do you do this? You conduct workshops to prepare teams and define key performance indicators. Of course, you can't just go into implementing and sustaining the change and reinforcing change without helping people to know what it is you're looking for at different levels. So, if you're implementing a change um, that has to do with how people sit in your organization, for instance, or having people sign in through their cards, their check-in cards as employees. Those conduct workshops. Nothing is too hard. It can be a virtual workshop that you get everybody to sign in. Even I remember growing up, I worked in a retail store where people we did trainings. You would think a retail store would be, kind of laid back about those things. No, we were doing trainings like almost every week, and your pay was connected to your training. So it was very important to we didn't need to attend. We just virtually did the training, and it will be signed against our name or employee ID that we completed this training. So you want to prepare teams and help them show them the key performance indicators. Sometimes you want to be able to sometimes you want to be able to um, show people, work with the team to help them, let everybody define the key performance indicators, and tell them the goal of the metrics. Like, say, if you're measuring um, the rates, how they are able to get users or customers to sign in through a particular to use a particular application. You can start with metrics such as you can start with KPIs or target indicators, like, so the ability to get people to use it is at starts at 65%. Your target is that people will be able to get people to use it at 99%, 80%, for instance. So you can have a long-term target for your KPIs, but ultimately you want to be able to get people to, buy in enough that they they agree to, they agree to your KPI, and they don't feel like it's unfair. Because remember, the highlight of this Lewin's model is targeted at organizations where the organization structure is quick, innovative, and adaptive to new things and change. And that is the end of our training for today. I believe we are at time. We have a few minutes to 9:25. I did say we were going to stop at 9:25. So I just want to thank everyone. For those people who will watch this in future, I really hope that you enjoyed our webinar. I hope that this, is impactful, and that you're able to, use this. I hope that you're able to use this to 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 convince people to implement change, and to implement change effectively, because that's our goal. Change happens all the time, but how effectively do we implement these changes? How well and how easily do we transition these new technologies and new ideas to people? And with this, we have come to the end of our training for tonight. We're going to be doing this again at, we'll communicate the time, but it's scheduled for 6 p.m. EST tomorrow and on Sunday. However, that is subject to change, and we will communicate the time when beforehand, way beforehand. So my goal for this live and for this training is really not necessarily for today. Thank God for technology and the how much you can create something, and in future it's still useful, it's still relevant for someone, it's still something that someone can use and find. So this is definitely for people who are looking to move into the change, into change roles, for people who are looking to much more easily transition, or people who are just looking to just gain knowledge in one way or the other. I have implemented quite a number of change, a lot of change. I have been involved in change. I've been affected by change quite a lot. um you know I'll give you a little story about me. I was the first I was I my background really is in arts, and then I did my master's in social sciences, and I then went into technology. So I think you can see that change is something that has happened to me quite a lot. I'm very used to it, um, and I adapt very easily. But I do it with very good, because of my very good communication skills. I'm able to show my s- um, transferable skills from where I am to where I want to go to. And that's what I'm hoping to share with you. That's what I'm hoping to you know help someone. I hope that this video helped you, and I'm looking forward to meeting next tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching this. Please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and please share it to people that you think can use it. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.